If you are starting with nothing, you cannot afford random skills. You need skills that turn attention into trust, trust into money, and money into leverage. The unsupported man does not need comfort. He needs a skill stack sharp enough to make the market answer. Because when you have no network, proof must become your network. When you have no family name, results must become your name. When no one opens doors, skill becomes the key, and proof becomes the knock. Most men starting from zero make one mistake. They collect skills that do not compound. A little design, a little editing, a little editing, a little business, a little motivation, a little motivation, a little discipline. Then they wonder why nothing changes. They are not building power. They are collecting scattered tools. And scattered tools do not build a kingdom. So the real question is not, what should you learn? The colder question is this: what skills create power when no one is coming to help you? Machiavelli wrote in The Prince, "No principality is secure without having its own forces." He was speaking about states, armies, and rulers. But the principle is even more brutal for a man starting from nothing. If your income depends entirely on one boss, you are using another man's forces. If your reputation depends on people liking you, you are using another man's approval. If your opportunity depends on someone discovering your hidden potential, you are gambling with invisibility. And invisibility is not noble, it is expensive. The world does not reward the man who suffers in silence. It rewards the man who turns suffering into visible advantage. Your family may not understand you, your friends may doubt you, society may ignore you. But the market has one cold virtue. It eventually responds to proof, not feelings, not explanations, not your private pain. Proof. That is why no network means proof must become your network. Damon John did not begin Fubu with institutional power. He began in his mother's house in Hollis, Queens. He saw wool ski hats selling for $20. He made his own version. He and his neighbor sold them for $10 each and made $800 in one day. That was not luck. That was perception. He saw demand before the market respected it. He understood a neglected audience before institutions took it seriously. Then FUBU moved from hats to shirts, jerseys, and cultural placement. They loaned jerseys to rappers for music videos. The brand appeared larger than it was. Stores started asking for the product because perception had begun moving before the empire was fully built. Machiavelli wrote, "Men judge generally more by the eye than by the hand." He also wrote, "Everyone sees what you appear to be, few really know what you are." That is not a lesson in being fake. It is a lesson in sequence. The world sees signal before it studies substance. The unsupported man loses when he has substance but no signal. He works hard, he studies, he improves, he suffers, but no one sees evidence, so the market treats him as if he does not exist. Hidden talent is treated like non-existent talent. This is the first law of the millionaire skill stack. You are not trying to become impressive in private. You are trying to become useful in public. A man with no support must become visibly useful. Not because visibility is vanity, but because visibility is how strangers decide whether to trust you. If you are the right man for this channel, stop mistaking private effort for progress. You already know you are capable, but your problem is that your capability has no public proof, no leverage, and no system. If you keep building in silence while waiting for the world to notice, you will stay tired, useful to others, and invisible to the market. Inside Patreon, you get deeper, unfiltered breakdowns on power, proof, leverage, human nature, and strategic self-construction, so you can stop operating like an emotional worker and start thinking like a man building his own forces. This is not for men who want comfort. It is for men who have finished asking permission. The decision is yours. The Millionaire skill stack is not a list, it is a chain. First, you capture attention. Then you convert attention into trust. Then you convert trust into money. Then you convert money into leverage. Then you convert leverage into independence. Most men fail because their skills do not feed each other. They learn something useful, but it does not connect to a market. They become knowledgeable, but not valuable. They become disciplined, but not visible. They become talented, but not paid. The strategist builds differently. Every skill must strengthen the next skill. Every action must create proof. Every proof must increase trust. Every trust signal must move him closer to leverage. The first skill is sales. Not because sales is loud, not because sales is manipulation. Sales matters because sales is the ability to move reality. A man who cannot sell depends on men who can. Why do less talented men often make more money than more capable men? Because the market does not reward value in silence. It rewards value that can be understood, trusted, and acted upon. Machiavelli wrote, "Men are so simple and so subject to present necessities that he who seeks to deceive will always find someone who will allow himself to be deceived." Do not corrupt the lesson. This is not permission to deceive. It is a warning about human nature. People move because of need, pressure, fear, desire, timing, status, and urgency. Sales is the study of why people act. If you do not understand this, your value waits for someone else to translate it. Sarah Blakely sold fax machines door-to-door before Spanx. She heard no constantly. She was rejected. She was dismissed. She was pushed out of rooms. But rejection became training. Later, when she had no industry connections, no fashion background, and no manufacturing power, she already had one weapon. She could face rejection without collapsing. That mattered because the unsupported man does not get protected from rejection. He gets shaped by it. Sales teaches you three cold truths. Attention is not trust. Trust is not action. Action requires a clear reason now. Most men are vague. They say, "I am good at this." The market says, "So what?" They say, "I work hard." The market says, "For whom?" They say, "I have potential." The market says, "Where is the proof?" Sales forces precision. Who has the pain? What do they want? What is the cost of doing nothing? Why should they trust you? Why now? Stop thinking sales is beneath you. If you cannot sell, you are not noble. You are dependent. A man with no support must learn to move people without needing their pity. But sales without language is blunt force. You may understand value, but if you cannot name desire, frame pain, and make the offer feel inevitable, your message dies before it reaches the mind. That is why the second skill is copywriting. Copywriting is not writing. Copywriting is power over attention at scale. It is the ability to name what people feel before they can explain it themselves. Why does one man get ignored while another man says the same thing and gets paid? Because the second man controls language. Machiavelli understood that power depends on perception. He wrote, "The vulgar are always taken by what a thing seems to be and by what comes of it." Again, do not misunderstand him. He is not celebrating stupidity. He is observing reality. People do not first judge essence. They judge signal, outcome, frame, and consequence. Copywriting is the modern control of frame. Most unsupported men explain too much. They describe effort. They describe struggle. They describe intentions. But the market does not buy your struggle. It buys the transformation your skill can produce. Bad copy says, "I edit videos." Power copy says, "I turn weak videos into retention machines that keep viewers watching." Bad copy says, "I do fitness coaching." Power copy says, I help men rebuild discipline through the first kingdom they control, their body. Bad copy says, I do I automation. Power copy says, I remove repetitive work so one man can operate like a small team. The difference is not vocabulary, it is strategic perception. Copywriting teaches you what people fear, what they want, what they hide, what status they chase, and what pain they deny. For this audience, that matters. The unsupported man is not looking for comfort. He is looking for a doctrine that turns abandonment into power. So the language must not soothe him, it must expose him. The man who controls language controls the first battlefield. Before money moves, attention moves. Before attention moves, language strikes. But language alone is no longer enough. The modern battlefield is visual, fast, distracted, and merciless. A strong sentence can open the door, but if perception is not controlled second by second, attention leaks. That is why the third skill is video editing. Video editing is not decoration, it is control over perception. It is the discipline of deciding what the viewer sees, when he sees it, how long he stays with it, and what emotional pressure he feels while he watches. Why do people abandon good ideas after 12 seconds? Because truth without structure leaks attention. Most men think editing is cuts, music, captions, and transitions. That is surface. Real editing asks colder questions. Where does attention drop? Where does tension weaken? Where does the idea become predictable? Where does the viewer stop fearing the cost of leaving? A strong edit is not flashy. It is controlled. It removes dead air. It sharpens pacing. It makes the argument feel inevitable. It does not decorate the message. It weaponizes the message. Machiavelli wrote that a prince must study war and discipline because this is the art that allows men to rise from private station to rank. A prince ought to have no other aim or thought than war and its rules and discipline. It often enables men to rise from a private station to that rank. Modern war for the unsupported man is not fought with armies. It is fought with attention, proof, and distribution. If you cannot hold attention, your ideas do not travel. If your ideas do not travel, your proof stays hidden. If your proof stays hidden, opportunity never compounds. This is why a faceless man with structure can beat a charismatic man with chaos. System can defeat personality. Precision can defeat popularity. Retention can defeat talent. Video editing turns knowledge into retention. Retention turns content into distribution. Distribution turns proof into opportunity. If you are starting with nothing, you cannot rely on people reading your mind. You must package your value in formats the market already consumes. Video is one of them. A man who can explain, structure, edit, and publish his value does not wait for permission to be seen. He creates the conditions that make him visible. The unsupported man cannot afford to be merely deep. Depth without retention becomes invisible. Your job is not only to know. Your job is to make truth impossible to look away from. But attention and retention still do not guarantee money. A man can be seen and still remain poor. A man can be trusted and still be underpaid. A man can be talented and still have nothing clear for the market to buy. That is why the fourth skill is offer creation. A skill is not an offer. This is why talented men stay broke. The market does not buy your skill. It buys a packaged outcome. It does not wake up wanting your discipline. It wakes up wanting a pain removed, a desire reached, a problem solved, a risk reduced, a status improved, or a future made easier. Machiavelli warned against relying on fortune. He who relies entirely on fortune is lost when it changes. A vague skill is fortune dependent. You wait for someone to understand you. You hope someone sees your potential. You explain what you can do and pray they connect it to their problem. A clear offer is power dependent. You define the buyer. You define the pain. you define the result. You define the proof, you define the price, you define the terms of exchange. Damon John did not simply sell fabric, he sold identity. FUBU stood for us, by us. That phrase turned clothing into belonging. It was not just a product, it was a signal. It told a neglected market, this was made for you by people who understand you. Sarah Blakely did not simply sell fabric either. She solved a specific frustration with a product women could immediately understand. The pressure was clear, the result was clear. The product had a reason to exist. This is offer creation. It turns skill into a weapon the market can recognize. A strong offer answers 4 questions. Who is it for? What pain does it remove? What result does it create? Why should anyone believe you? If you cannot answer those questions, you do not have an offer, you have a wish. This is where talented men lose to strategic men. The talented man says, I can do many things. The strategic man says, I solve this painful problem for this specific person with this clear outcome. One sounds capable, the other sounds buyable. Stop selling your time. Time is the resource of men with no leverage. Sell outcomes, sell transformation, sell solved problems. The market does not pay you because you worked hard. It pays you because you made a problem disappear. But once money appears, the next danger arrives: weak terms. That is why the 5th skill is negotiation. A man who cannot negotiate is not peaceful. He is available for extraction. Why do men work hard and still feel trapped? Because they win tasks and lose terms. Machiavelli wrote, "A prince should guard himself, above all things, against being despised and hated." For a modern man, being despised does not always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks like being underpaid, being interrupted, being given more responsibility without more authority, being praised while being exploited, being called reliable because you never say no, being called loyal because you accept what stronger men would reject. Negotiation is how you refuse invisible disrespect. Most unsupported men are grateful for the first opportunity. This gratitude becomes dangerous. They accept weak pay. They accept vague roles. They accept unclear deliverables. They accept clients who demand everything and respect nothing. They accept payment after the work is finished. They accept endless revisions. They accept emergency timelines without emergency prices. Why? Because a part of them still thinks opportunity is charity. It is not. Opportunity is exchange. If you bring value, you must learn terms. Scope, price, timeline, rights, payment schedule, revision limits, exit conditions, ownership, authority, consequences. The weak man discusses feelings. The strategic man defines terms. Do not confuse being easy to work with and being easy to use. One makes you respected, the other makes you cheap. Negotiation is not aggression, it is structure. It is the refusal to let your hunger be used against you. It is the moment you stop treating every chance as salvation and start treating value as a trade. But even if you negotiate better money, you can still lose it. You can earn more and remain anxious. You can raise your income and still feel controlled. You can win better terms and still leak power every month. That is why the 6th skill is basic finance. Making money does not make a man powerful. Keeping control over money does. Why do men increase income and still remain trapped? Because their financial system is weaker than their ambition. Machiavelli wrote, "Men more quickly forget the death of their father than the loss of their patrimony." It is one of his coldest observations. People defend property fiercely because material control affects survival, status, freedom, and dignity. Money is not just paper. It is stored choice. It is time. It is mobility. It is the ability to refuse. It is the ability to wait. It is the ability to walk away from bad terms without panic in your stomach. Most men starting from nothing treat money emotionally. When they are broke, they panic. When they get paid, they celebrate. When they feel insecure, they spend to look higher status than they are. When they feel behind, they chase shortcuts. When they feel ashamed, they buy symbols. This is how money leaks. Subscriptions, impulse purchases, lifestyle inflation, bad debt, no emergency buffer, no reinvestment plan, no tracking, no separation between survival money, growth money, and ego money. The broke man spends to look powerful. The strategic man uses money to become harder to control. Basic finance means knowing what comes in, what goes out, what must be protected, what can be reinvested, and what increases future earning power. It means tracking your leaks without sentiment. It means refusing to let temporary insecurity dictate permanent weakness. Money is not the final goal. Money is stored optionality. It buys time, tools, education, mobility, silence, and the ability to say no. That ability matters more than most men admit. A man who cannot say no is not free. He is rented. Do not use money to look powerful. Use money to become harder to control. But a man alone still faces one brutal limit: time. That is why the seventh skill is AI and tool leverage. The unsupported man must learn to operate like a small army. How does one man compete against teams, agencies, and better-funded players? He multiplies output through tools. Machiavelli respected preparation before crisis. He warned that men are ruined when they fail to prepare in calm before the storm. It is a common defect in man not to make any provision in the calm against the tempest. AI is not magic. It is preparation. The man who learns it early compounds advantage. The man who ignores it waits until the battlefield has already changed. But do not worship tools. Tools do not make weak men strong. They multiply the man behind them. If the man is lazy, AI multiplies laziness. If the man is vague, it multiplies vagueness. If the man has no taste, no standards, no strategy, no judgment, it produces more noise at a faster speed. So the skill is not using AI. The skill is directing tools with strategic judgment. I can help one man simulate departments he cannot afford. Research, drafting, editing, summarizing, offer testing, customer pain analysis, content repurposing, outreach planning, market study, workflow design. This is not about replacing thinking. It is about removing the excuse that you need a team before you can move. A man with no support should use tools to increase the speed of proof. Build faster, test faster, learn faster, publish faster, improve faster. The unsupported man does not have the luxury of slow confusion. He must compress learning cycles. Do not fear tools. Fear being the kind of man who needs permission, staff, perfect conditions, and emotional certainty before he can execute. But even with skills, offers, tools, and money, one thing still decides whether the market trusts you. Proof. Potential is not power. Proof is power. Why do people ignore you until you already have results? Because belief is expensive when there is no evidence. Machiavelli wrote, "In the actions of all men, and especially of princes, one judges by the result." This is the law most men hate. Intentions do not protect you. Pain does not qualify you. Effort does not automatically translate into status. Results become the public language of seriousness. The unsupported man often wants recognition before proof. He wants family to understand, friends to believe, society to notice. But belief before proof is charity, and charity creates dependence. Public proof building destroys this dependence. A portfolio. Case studies. Before and after results. Content. Testimonials. Documented projects. Screenshots of outcomes. Public writing, public thinking, public execution. This is how a man with no network builds one. Not by begging for access, by becoming visible evidence. Proof changes social gravity. People who ignored you begin watching. People who doubted you begin qualifying themselves. Opportunities that once required permission begin appearing through evidence. This is not because humans became fair. It is because your signal changed. You are not unsupported. You are unproven. That sentence should not insult you. It should free you. Because being unsupported may not be in your control, but becoming proven is. Now the stack is complete, but the real power is not in the individual skills. The power is in the sequence. Sales turns attention into action. Copywriting turns desire into language. Video editing turns truth into retention. Offer creation turns skill into money. Negotiation protects your terms. Finance protects your freedom. I multiplies your output. Public proof makes the market believe without you begging. This is how skill becomes leverage. This is how proof becomes a network. This is how the unsupported man stops asking to be chosen and starts becoming impossible to ignore. Machiavelli's world was built on two forces, virtue and fortuna. Fortuna is circumstance, birth, luck, timing, connections, family, social position, economic conditions. Virtue is the capacity to act, courage, skill, adaptation, discipline, force of will, strategic intelligence. Machiavelli did not deny fortune. He said, fortune rules part of life, but not all of it. Fortune is the arbiter of one half of our actions, but she still leaves us to direct the other half. This is the doctrine for the unsupported man. You do not control where you began. You do not control who failed to support you. You do not control whether your family understood you. You do not control whether your friends mocked you. You do not control whether society noticed you early. That is fortuna. But you control the construction of your own forces. Sales, copywriting, video editing, offer creation, negotiation, finance. I leverage. Public proof. That is virtue, not motivation. Capacity, not hope. Force, not complaining about locked doors. Building the key, the knock, and eventually the room. Machiavelli's realism is dangerous if misunderstood. It does not tell you to become cruel. It tells you not to become naive. It does not tell you to deceive people. It tells you that perception governs access. It does not tell you to worship money. It tells you that resources shape freedom. It does not tell you to chase status. It tells you that reputation affects how power moves toward or away from you. The world does not reward the man who suffered. It rewards the man who turns suffering into visible advantage. The unsupported man must stop asking, "Why did no one help me?" That question keeps him emotionally tied to the people who withheld support. It keeps him waiting for an apology from reality. It keeps him negotiating with the past, while stronger men build the future. The stronger question is this: what must I build so their support becomes irrelevant? That is where power begins. You are not a man waiting to be discovered. That is a child's fantasy. You are a man building evidence so strong that discovery becomes inevitable. The boy wants belief before action. The strategist builds proof before asking for trust. The market does not care how unsupported you were. It only asks one question: can you create value I can see? If this video gave you a colder way to think, like it now, so the signal travels. Comment the weakest skill in your stack, because naming the weakness is the first act of control. Subscribe if you are building the skill stack that makes you undeniable, not for motivation, but for realism, discipline, and the cold study of power. Read Machiavelli carefully. Study human nature without sentiment. Build your own forces. Because when no one opens doors, skill becomes the key, proof becomes the knock, and the man who once begged to be believed becomes impossible to ignore.